Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston Annual Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the Connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. You've probably heard that proverb that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Oftentimes, when we think about the ministries of the church, we sometimes get to looking at the 1,000-mile journey and forget that we just need to begin, and that oftentimes the best place to begin is with something that we're capable of doing and succeeding at. Hi, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and you're listening to the Wesleyan Connection. This is a podcast that I do in my spare time because I really feel that this is what God is wanting me to do to help share some good news with the churches of our annual conference. And in today's podcast, we are continuing the conversation. I know it seems like it's gone on forever, but I've broken a 2-hour conversation down into some manageable bits. And what we're going to talk about, or what you're going to hear us talking about in this roundtable discussion, is the fact that ministries, well, sometimes we make them too difficult. Sometimes we try to say, oh, I'm too small to do that, or that's not something we're capable of doing. Then you need to start with something you're capable of doing. You need to pick that one thing, no matter how small it is, that you can be good at and do it. I hope you enjoy this conversation today.
Well, like with the church I have, with them being small, what I have done is, no, we don't have any youth, but I've tried to accentuate the positives that the women and people can do. We found ministries that when you're senior citizens, that's easy for them to do. We do snacks for the Holston Valley Hospital, where they're up there and having surgery. We do a backpack ministry. We feed people that are sick and shut in. That's just in our community. They don't even attend our church, but the people of the church know who they are. They've had surgeries. We have people in if they've had a death and feed them. We've accentuated the positive that those people have, their gifts and their talents. And that seems to, even though we're small, that seems to be what's working for us, because you can't sit there and beat yourself down. Well, we don't have any youth. I told them, I said, we don't, but there's other things that we can do. I've got a senior citizens choir, and they sound good.
They do, actually. I heard them.
You heard them. And the thing
Jeff's surprised.
Actually, Jeff was there to see how hard those ladies work in the church. And when we had homecoming, of course, we had 75, which that's great. But he'll tell you, a third of those were people from Florida and Ohio and Greenville. They wasn't even from there, but they like to come back home because those ladies send out letters. They care enough to send letters out. And Slant's the same way. Those ladies really work hard. They love their church. And you have to just make them feel that what they're doing is important. And you have to accentuate what they can do. They're sewers and cookers. And let me tell you, that's what
they're cookers.
And they are. And really, and that's my niche that I have been able to do.
My weakest point is accentuate. Thank you. What's the word? Well, not
You didn't know I could use big words, did you?
No, it doesn't matter what size word. If it starts out and it doesn't come out right, it's not ever going to.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. I say quite often that I'm interested. I don't brag on people. I don't brag on the church.
Right.
I was reading either what you put in something last night or something that you had sent on an email just recently about celebrating. So, my weakest point. And a whole lot of what we do, 90% of the church don't know. We work with the principal at St. Paul Elementary, making sure that there's ice cream money for all the kids. That they show up to the school, they don't have ice cream money, or they've run out and forgot to tell their parents. We make sure that there's ice cream money for all the kids. The principal and one other lady there knows that if there's kids that needs clothing, if they need school supplies, anything like that, they usually talk to Sharon. And the church does it. Most of the church don't even know we do that. It was approved in a board meeting some time back, and I said something about it. I don't ever mention it to them. I think part of being successful is helping the church celebrate what they do, and I can't bring myself to do that.
Well, let Sharon do it. Find a way to let it be done. You don't have to do it. Let somebody else do it. Sometimes it's better for somebody else to do it anyway.
And you know what my weakness is forgetting to take up the offering, because I get so caught up in what I'm doing, and I don't care to admit it. I forget half the time to take up the offering.
But
Well,
somebody
hey, at the homecoming, you didn't even have it in order of worship. I was sitting there wondering, are we not taking up? This is a crowd. Are we not taking up an offering?
Get what you get, what you get.
I'm bad. I'm really bad, but I get so caught up when we're
Doesn't your
in praying.
treasurer say, you forgot the offering?
No,
You know,
that's
I
not-
used to feel that way, but
But-
then I came to realize, for those folks that are sitting there, that's one of the greatest opportunities of worship that they can have.
Is
I came to look at it differently.
but
Rather
they
than
do
begging,
that.
it's an opportunity to give. But I know where you're coming from.
But I get
forget
so caught
sometimes.
up, you know, in
Yeah.
preaching and really response to the word and closing. You know how it is. You're getting everything tied up in that bow to really make that last point for your congregation before they walk out the door. And I really do sometimes forget, and I'm like, oh, and they're just sit there and grin at me.
Yeah.
But we always get a good offering. But I'm just saying, I forget it. That's my weakness there.
I've done that once or twice.
I
but-
forgot the offering. I forgot communion. I forgot to light candles.
I cannot follow the bulletins that I print out.
My secretary, I'm telling you, makes some mistakes sometimes. I'm gonna have to get with that secretary. They told me to fire her. They told me to.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
do have a
sometimes
secretary.
it's interesting. The questions aren't the church.
you-
I have filled in at a church
Yeah.
3 times recently.
Yeah.
Lit the
Yeah.
candles,
Doesn't have-
and as I walked out the
Yeah, I
last
know.
time, one of the
I had one
people
for
in the
several
congregation
years.
said, "Why do you keep lighting the candles?
Yeah.
We never light the candles."
We was actually talking about this Sunday about
So I got that one.
about dress, and somebody brought up robes. And I was like, you know, in some churches, you know, it works perfectly, and then in other places, you know, it's just a question, you know. And I said, I can't count the number of times that I've had people around
Well,
here,
the way I
little
keep
kid come
fitting
up to me and say,
Of course, we had Sandy
dress?
and Nancy's there, and Nancy's
I
been
have
there
people
for
ask
many
me
years
because
as
I'm
the
a
associate.
deacon.
Yeah.
They'll say,
And when I left,
"What
Harlan,
beauty pageant
one of the
did
fellows
you
there
use?"
said,
Oh, wow. Hey, that's a good one, though, you know, so.
And I had one fellow tell me, he said, I just want to see how
I
you
noticed like
handle
from it, you
having a
don't do
secretary
robes
and
or
an associate.
anything. But
And
now
let
I
Dave
do
know,
on
said,
what I
"David,
call high
I'll get used
holidays
to
like
it." Sure.
this.
And I have, and I've enjoyed
And
it.
if I baptize, of course, I do.
Well, we're becoming more liturgical, and it's not by purpose. I mean, on purpose. It is. It may be the contrast from the church right down the road that has 300 people, and all it is just entertainment. But we are actually just slowly becoming more liturgical, and the young people are. There's so many the new kids that they don't know the difference, and I can hear them saying a lot of the liturgy louder than anybody else and everything. And I'm thinking, God, this is good. And one day I just told the folks, I said, all this responsive reading, standing up, whatever, this church is sending a signal to all these new kids that are coming that reading is important. Because they know they can't really participate unless they can read along with the liturgy and everything. And so this past Sunday, we had like nearly 40 kids in the church and everything.
Praise the Lord.
And I would say 35 of them didn't have one of their parents there. We had to go out and pick them up, bring them in. I start at 7:45 on Sunday morning picking these. It takes over 2 hours to go pick up all the kids. And then turn right around, have them in a Sunday school class, and then go right to church. Talking about forgetting things. That's why I'm prepared, but I'm ill-prepared because I'm so harried by all these kids. And then turn right around, take them back home, get back home about 3 o'clock after all said and done. And I just think, God, you're touching these lives in ways that I never thought could happen. Because I always thought they would be the ones who wanted to go to the more entertaining churches. But they're eating up the liturgy. They're enjoying it, and it gives them a sense of I think, real response to God rather than just sitting back and listening to someone else do it.
Yeah.
And I can hear them, and they get me mixed up because they can't pronounce some of the words, and I find myself going along with them because I'm listening to them. But I'm thinking, this is a blessing. But the church hasn't celebrated with us on that. This is something that, they see all those kids and they think, well, their parents aren't here, they're not contributing. And that's my mistake, that I'm not explaining what God is doing and why God is doing this. I just want the people to accept it. I thought all adults would accept a church full of kids. That's not the case.
And they want the reverent kids that will sit there and
yeah.
Any of them that starts to disrupt. Now me, I speak right over them, and I tell the parents, leave them alone. They're babies. But some,
well, most of these don't have their parents,
right,
so
they
yeah.
want them sitting just like little soldiers, and they've not been brought up in church, and you're having to teach them.
Even the ones having a 2-year-old, even the ones that are in church every Sunday are going to be disruptive. And it's hard for me, and I know that we're welcome. It's hard for me to go and sit in a congregation with my 2-year-old because I know he's going to be wild.
And I always had trouble.
Yeah. I mean,
It's always harder on the parent than it is all the people around
it
them.
is, but I'm in the church and I know that, and it's still hard. So for these parents that are out, I can't imagine the hurdle they have just to come in the door.
Well, I used to have some that would wander up, to me as I was preaching, and you can see this terrified look on the mother's face, like, oh my goodness, they're very You know what I did? I just picked them up and kept on preaching, and I'd let them help me do the hymns or whatever, and that's what I did. And that look, just you could tell. But I love kids, and you just keep that rhythm. And I still do that now if they're out in the congregation. I'll say, leave them alone. And I just keep on going. That's what I'm saying. And but like you said, you are terrified when your child does that because you don't know how the pastor is going to be receptive to that. Now, me, I'll just pick them up and keep on going. But now, I realize
I'm more concerned about the people in the pews than the pastor.
Honestly, the people around that baby are sitting there thinking, oh, good, I got a baby to play with today because the pastor was so boring last Sunday.
There are those, it just takes one. And there is that one person in my life who has said, I don't know why you can't keep him in his seat. And that is what, as a parent, even involved in the leadership of the church, that I hear every time.
You can only hear that one thing and not hear the other 99 positive.
Right. And that's how we operate as leaders, too. We hear the one negative. It's so much easier to tear each other down. It
but
is.
I had a little one the same way. I had one, he was 10 or 12 years old, would sit in the front pew and take a spit and blow it and hit John Hackney right here in front of his forehead. And I just I'm sitting up there because I was the choir director sitting up here. I'm just going, I'm giving him the look. Everybody knew what that look meant. He was going to meet me back in the choir room as soon as church was over. But I understand as a mother because I've been there. So.
And everybody else is sitting there saying, can I have one of those too?
Folks, I want to hit.
Yeah, for sure. But if you all know John.
This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.